What's going on, everyone? It's me alone. Today's video I can sense might be a bit more combative in the comments, only because I know how much this mode meant to people and how upset people were when Bethesda Game Studios decided to remove it from the game. And of course, I'm talking about Nuclear Winter in Fallout 76. Recently, there was a leak which suggested that this mode is going to be returning to the game sometime this year. And it's just spurred a bunch of discussions as to why Bethesda Game Studios ever removed Nuclear Winter in the first place, and whether it actually has a chance of returning to the game sometime in the future. So in today's video, we're going to be touching on all those topics, and in particular, I want to spend a lot of time as to why I believe Nuclear Winter was actually removed from the game. So if you enjoyed this video, please like it. I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new. But let's get to this supposed leak. And I'm using that term very loosely. Here you can see a mock-up of a typical BethesdaNet article. It's entitled Fallout 76 Nuclear Winter is Back for January 8, 2024. The intention here was that this leak came out before January 8, and this was meant to be like a draft article that you couldn't access yet because it was privated. And some people actually tried to access the link, but the link sent to a 404 page. And that even spurred some people thinking, oh, it might actually be real, because why would it be a 404 page? Anyways, once I read the actual paragraph in this supposed leak, you'll see why it's completely fake. So there's a lot of spelling issues, a lot of grammatical issues in this paragraph, and this is what it says. Get ready to continue the battle for the role of Vault 51s. In Nuclear Winter, you'll take part in a 52-player fight to the death. As the Ring of Fire closes in, will you be the last one standing? We are excited to bring back this fan favorite January 9th, 2024. Again, it's hard to read this. Mode not available on Sony PlayStation or Xbox Game Pass, and even the B is weirdly capitalized in Xbox, must have Xbox Series S or X to participate in this beta. So you read that quite easily, quite simply, you can understand that it's fake, right? Now, people that are quickly glancing by this in a Facebook group will be taken aback by it. And admittedly, when I saw this in a Facebook group that I follow for Fallout 76, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I haven't seen anything like this. And you never know, when Bethesda drafts a BethesdaNet article, if it can get out or not. I don't know the inner workings of BethesdaNet and whether that's actually possible, but there's always a chance something like this might actually get out. But when you actually read it, of course, yeah, it is fake. But because of that, as I mentioned, it has spurred discussion as to why this game mode was ever removed from Fallout 76 and whether it should come back and whether it actually has a chance of coming back. So, for instance, right now, the top post on the FO76 subreddit is from user Musician Successful 96, and they say the following. Quote, I think it would be a fun change of pace, even if it's just for one season. Not sure why they never brought it back, referring to Nuclear Winter. Can't think of a single reason why the devs wouldn't want to. I personally thought it was extremely fun, gave a reason to chat and do PvP. And then recently there is a change.org petition, I'll link it in the description below if you want to support it, that is entitled Bring Back Nuclear Winter for Fallout 76, and it goes on to say, quote, the removal of the Nuclear Winter mode from Fallout 76 has left a significant gap in the gaming experience for many players. This mode provided an engaging and enjoyable outlet for those who relish player versus player PvP combat, offering a unique twist to the game's post-apocalyptic world. It also served as an exciting alternative activity when players had completed all available quests. According to Bethesda's own data, millions of matches were played in this mode since its introduction, demonstrating its popularity among the game's community, Bethesda 2020. We urge Bethesda Game Studios to reconsider their decision and reinstate Nuclear Winter mode in Fallout 76. Your signature can help bring back this beloved aspect of gameplay for thousands of players worldwide. Please sign this petition today. I'm just going to say, your signature's not going to do that. Most change.org petitions just don't actually change anything. But I admire the sentiment. I admire the kind of love that this person clearly had for Nuclear Winter, and all the love that everyone that actually signed this petition clearly had for the game mode. So let's start off by addressing the elephant in the room. Why did Bethesda Game Studios actually remove Nuclear Winter? You keep hearing about it from time to time. If you just looked on posts on the internet and sentiment on the internet, you'd think it was a very, very popular game mode and people loved it. People did love it. Wasn't as popular as some people think, but yeah, people clearly love Nuclear Winter. Why did they remove it? Let's look at their official reasoning that they released when they decided to announce the sunsetting of Nuclear Winter. And then I'm going to try and break it down and talk about the reasons that I believe are actually believable, and the other ones which weren't ever stated that clearly had to contribute to them removing the game mode. So this was their official reasoning. Let's go through it, give them the benefit of the doubt. And this, of course, was several years ago. And then we'll go into why I believe it was actually removed. So the official reasoning was, quote, "As a development team, we view Fallout 76 as a game that is continually evolving with each update we release. We love adding new ways for you to enjoy Appalachia, whether through quest lines, events, daily ops, new features, quality of life improvements, or even gameplay modes. When we first introduced Nuclear Winter, we were thrilled to watch so many players from our community, as well as many newcomers, dive headfirst into our take on the ruthless, last player standing battle royale genre. Over time, however, we've seen the vast majority of players prefer to explore other aspects of the game. It also has become tougher to put full Nuclear Winter lobbies together without also making sacrifices on match wait times. Additionally, we found it challenging to provide meaningful updates for Nuclear Winter, while also developing and supporting exciting new content for Adventure Mode in recent and upcoming updates. With all this in mind, we are currently planning to sunset Nuclear Winter mode in an update coming this September. We know that some of you are incredibly passionate about Nuclear Winter, and that you may find this news disappointing. Ending support for the mode was a difficult decision and not one that we made lightly. We are still working to provide methods of PvP combat for those who enjoy squaring off against other former Vault Dwellers, and a little later this year, we will release details on how we plan to offer players even more ways to play Fallout 76. And then they talk about they're going to compensate people, blah, 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 blah. Which we were compensated very, very generously, might I add, from memory. But let's try and break down this reasoning, and then I'm going to go into what I actually believe. And to be clear, I know a lot of you know that I used to work at the company. This is not based on inside info. It's based on my gut feel. What I feel in my bones. I didn't work at BGS. I worked at the publisher side. So I don't actually know the real reason why they removed it. All I knew was what they said publicly, right? So let's break it down. Low player counts. Was that a reason? Of course it contributed to it. If a mode was actually really popular, do you think they're going to remove it? Do you think they're going to remove a mode especially that actually brought in new players to the game? Of course they wouldn't, right? The fact that Nuclear Winter was removed meant that, yeah, clearly it wasn't as popular as Bethesda Game Studios wanted. Now, was it the main reason or the only reason? Of course not, because we've seen with modes like with Fallout Worlds, they're not played all that much, and Bethesda Game Studios isn't suddenly removing Fallout Worlds, right? It's a bit more complex than that, but it's somewhat part of the reason. Next up, long wait times. There were, especially towards the end, and not when Bethesda announced the sunsetting because more people started to play, but in that period in between, there were really, really long wait times in Nuclear Winter. So is it part of the reasoning? Yes, a little bit, but people were willing to wait. I was willing to wait, in Australia, when everyone was asleep in the US and Europe, sometimes 10, 20 minutes to find a lobby Nuclear Winter. It was fine. I was happy to do it. I'm streaming or I'm just like chatting with friends and just waiting for the next lobby to fill up. It wasn't all that bad. They were long, but in my opinion, they weren't a reason to completely ditch a mode unless there were other stuff going on, right? So, and I will say this as well, they could have done what Fortnite did, throw some NPCs in there to fill up the slots. It would have been just as fun. It's fun killing NPCs, so long as there are some players in there that you think you're actually killing. And then we've got server costs. Maybe it does cost money every time you want to spin up a server for Fallout, for Nuclear Winter, but it costs similar amounts to do it for Fallout Worlds and any other private server, right? The difference being is that with private worlds, it's actually in part funded by Fallout First, so it's not hemorrhaging Bethesda Game Studios that much money. But at least with public worlds, there are still public worlds available, so I don't believe that server costs are even a main reason. Definitely part of it, but I think there's more at play here. And then one of the last public reasons that they stated was that it was too much work to update. And to this, I will say they could have just left it. People kind of liked the mode as it was. It wasn't all that popular. But yeah, they could have just left it, not added any more guns or any more skins or anything like that, and just let people have their fun, right? They could have done that. Forget about, it's too much work to actually update, because if you had just left it, it wouldn't have been more work. Again, unless there was other stuff going on. So what were those other things? Why did they actually remove Nuclear Winter, in my opinion? Let's address the elephant in the room. Cheating. Cheating on PC sucked. It really, really sucked. You played any kind of PC lobby, you would find someone under the ground or in the sky, mowing you down. It happened constantly. And I know you on console, on PlayStation, Xbox, you probably wouldn't have experienced that. But with those of us on PC, it was hugely prevalent. Cheating sucked in Nuclear Winter. It happened probably consistently every third or fourth lobby. And you don't want to see that, right? And Bethesda Game Studios, in my opinion, didn't want to put up with that. They didn't want to try and address the huge task of removing cheaters from that game. They didn't want to implement an anti-cheat in Fallout 76. Too much work. They didn't want to try and moderate everyone's requests or like tickets to say, hey, I found this cheater, here's the username, can you please look into it? They didn't want to do that. Too much work on the dev side, too much work on the moderation side, too much work on the QA side, and money to actually implement an anti-cheat as well. That was by far one of, I think, probably the biggest reason, in my opinion. And it's not something they're going to announce publicly. Of course they're not. They're not going to admit their mode had cheaters because it's a bit of a liability for them. It's not a good look. But that had to be part of the reasoning, and I know a lot of people understand that as well. Cheaters ruined the experience for a lot of people on PC, and because of that, you on console couldn't play the game anymore. Because if they weren't fixing it on PC, like why would they just remove the mode for people on PC and let you play it on console because you didn't have cheaters? Didn't make sense because PC had a lot of cheaters that were going to remove the mode for a lot of people. That is my strong suspicion as to why they would have removed Nuclear Winter. But then let's talk about the reason as to, Nuclear Winter taking away resources from the game, actually them updating with DLC and bringing new content and story quests and everything that we've seen come to the game post Nuclear Winter, right? That's undoubtedly part of it, right? And they said this publicly, for sure it's part of it. Them spending time, any amount of time on Nuclear Winter, addressing cheaters, trying to add some new updates, even though they probably didn't need to, they could have just left it, but any amount of time that they spent on Nuclear Winter absolutely took away time to work on other areas of the game, to actually make the bulk of the game that was clearly more popular, full of content and enjoyable to play and fresh and exciting. That was part of the reason. But in my opinion, it's a bit more complex than that, because as I mentioned, if they had just left the game alone, all right, the mode alone, and there were no cheaters, hypothetically there were no cheaters, then it wouldn't have taken that much more time to just maintain Nuclear Winter. If they had just left it and there wasn't any additional work, it wouldn't have taken resources from the team to make other stuff for Fallout 76. It was taking away resources because of the cheaters, but also, if you really think about it, whenever we got an update for Fallout 76, we had new weapons added, power armor skins, all these new items, cosmetic skins, everything that we see get added to the game that is new was also in Nuclear Winter. And when that happens, you have to have some poor old dude sitting there testing and QAing all of those new items, all of that new content that happens to spill over into Nuclear Winter to make sure it doesn't fuck everything up. Because that would absolutely be a factor here. I can completely, and again, this is not inside knowledge, no one told me this, but absolutely that's part of it. From my understanding of game dev, from how it works, when it comes to QA and testing this stuff, and when you have new items, added into the game, and new features added into the game, it can start a snowball effect that you have no idea about until you actually play and realize, oh wow, there's a new bug, or wow, there's a new exploit, or there's this and this and that. And then you have to fix it. So the only way around that is by testing it yourself before you release it, and that takes time, that takes money, that takes resources from other areas of the game. And then if you don't test it properly, people are going to report it to you. Then you need to have a moderation team, taking in those requests on the support team, relaying that back to the devs, and the devs have to test it again, and they have to make sure they fix it. And you see what I mean? They just didn't want to deal with that anymore. They didn't want to deal with that anymore. If the mode was popular and made more money, sure. But it wasn't. So they didn't want to put up with cheating, and they didn't want to put up with all the QA and testing and all the other nonsense that would have come into it every time they added something new into the main base game that again spilled over into Nuclear Winter. So those are my guesses as to why Nuclear Winter was removed, and therefore, is it ever going to come back? No, it's never going to come back. I just think they're done with it. They're done with the mode. They're clearly trying to do other things with the game. I've talked about this time and time again. The team working on this game is very small at this stage. The rest of BGS is moving on, or has already moved on to Starfield, Elder Scrolls 6, etc., etc. There's not that many people working on Fallout 76, and they still struggle with adding content to the actual base game. So what do you think adding Nuclear Winter is going to do? It's just going to undermine the rest of their plans, at least the plans that they have, and the map expansion that they want to do, and all the new story quests that they want to do. So it's never coming back, and the discussion's never going to go away. People are going to keep bringing it up. But yes, this supposed leak, which is clearly fake, brought up this discussion, and I wanted to talk about it in today's video. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, Wastelanders. What do you think about Nuclear Winter being removed? What do you think were the actual reasons for it? And do you think it's ever going to come back? Let me know. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.